It's 2 o'clock on the dot. Hello, everybody. Welcome in. I am Christina Lee, one of the steering committee members for Community Conversations. I am your host for today, and I'd like to introduce Dr. Ray Taylor, my co-host.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Wonderful to see you here.
Thanks for being here. As always, we like to start our session with a question of the day. And since today's topic, our presentation is about learning, we wanted to ask about your animals in your life. What is the most fun thing that you have trained or taught your pet to do? Tell us about the pet and the trick. So you can put it in the chat. You can unmute yourself if you'd like and speak live. But Dr. Ray, would you like to kick us off with your most fun trick that you have taught your animal?
It's a really tricky one, but I think I would have to say that my most fun trick was actually with a horse. And for her name was Sassy, so she had to run through the woods to get her food. And when she got there, she had to do a twirl and then she could get it.
That's so impressive.
So, yeah, it was adorable and it was relatively easy to do. So, again, she was really motivated by her grain, and that was the perfect thing to teach her to twirl. Not very exciting. What about you?
I would like to take credit for something that I didn't actually teach, in that I'm sure many of you have experienced teaching by accident, teaching not on purpose. So we used to have a family dog, and they learned the sound of the cabinet opening underneath the sink that holds their treats. So one day I tried to open it so quietly because I needed something else under the sink. And then I hear like running from down the stairs, the dog, to get the treat. So I thought that was hilarious.
Awesome. There's some cute tricks showing up in the chat. I think my favorite one so far is that it looks like Chris's family taught the cat to get out of the Barbie's house with treats, and then that inadvertently taught her to go into the Barbie's house.
Oh.
So pretty funny. Looks like some really good, adorable tricks. I think that's wonderful to think about training. It's like, how much is intentional and inadvertent, and how much are them training us?
Kristen, teaching feral cats to not be afraid of you is very important work. So thank you for that.
Can I unmute and share, because he had his birthday on Friday. So there he is. He's 3.
Happy birthday. Oh.
And I shared in the chat that I attended a behavior training session at East Bay SPCA with Dr. Sophie Liu, and I learned follow me, to hold a treat in front of his nose if I think we're walking past something he's going to react to. He's so good at that. I'm so proud of him.
Can you do it without a treat in your hands?
Oh, I haven't tried that.
Sorry.
That's the next level. Okay.
Yes, advanced level.
Awesome. Advanced level, I think that we all could probably use for some advanced level training. Awesome. Looks like we're probably in that place. Keep sharing your notes. It's super fun. And I'm not sure. I think at this time, Christine, are we here for some national announcements?
Yeah. Are there any national updates that you would like to share with the whole group? Please feel free again to unmute yourself for a quick announcement, or you can put it in the chat and we'll give you a minute or two depending on what those are. Any national announcements?
We have a virtual workshop coming up this on September 21st, which is going to be all on return to field and it's saving the lives of community cats, getting presented by Brian Cortis and Susie Richmond at neighborhood cats, and they are amazing if you've never seen them talk. And it's going to be about programs and how to run them and how to motivate people and just how to organize a return to field, return to home kind of program for your ferals. So I will throw the link to that in the chat. It's totally free. Come. There's also a recording of it. So if you miss it, you can do that too.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen.
Mhm.
Looks like Jenna also posted about faunalytics, fauna connections in the chat. If anyone's interested. Anyone else?
Looks like Faunalytics is this Thursday. So if anyone is interested to check out that link. How did you have an announcement?
Nope, sorry, just technical difficulties.
No worries.
All right. Okay, then let's get started. It's Dr. Ray and are super excited to be here today for our special sneak peek into the new Shelter Learniverse Shelter Care Specialist Certification Program with Dr. Delaney giving us that special sneak peek. With an undergraduate degree in business and economics from UCLA and a DVM from UC Davis, Dr. Cindy Delaney has practiced emergency medicine, animal shelter medicine, and shelter outreach for more than 20 years. Her focus with the Koret Shelter Medicine Program's animal shelter outreach and industry-speaking activities is on programs targeted to improve animal outcomes, provide environmental enrichment for shelter animals, explore shelter animal behavior and training, improve shelter data collection and analysis, and maximize operational efficiencies in a limited resource environment. Dr. Delaney is now taking her passion and expertise for sharing information and learnings about maximizing animal shelter success to the next level as the Maddie's Million Pet Challenge Director of Online Learning at the UC Davis Koret Shelter Medicine Program. So welcome, Dr. Delaney.
Good morning or afternoon. For me, it's like just the edge of morning, almost becoming afternoon. So I'm super happy to be here. I am going to share my screen so you guys can enjoy some pictures as I speak and not have to just stare at me. And let me know if anybody has any issues that I can help with, or if they have any questions for me. You can always put them in the chat, or I can also make sure that my email is shared so that you have access to that. So yeah, good morning or afternoon. We're going to talk a little bit about this brand new program that we are just starting, and super excited to tell you guys about it because it's something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while now, and just kind of got everything aligned and the need is there. So what we're talking about today is our brand new Shelter Care Specialist Certification Program. And this is a thanks to Maddie offering because it is sponsored by Maddie generously. And I am directly over at the Koret Shelter Medicine Program over at the UC Davis School of Vet Med. And I am part of the Maddie's Million Pet Challenge program. And I'm our director of online learning at our Shelter Learniverse. So this is a program that we are offering through that big grouping of people who all want to help out in the industry. And it kind of started just based on the things that we've been seeing in the industry. Some of this stuff is, we've seen it for a long time, but there's also some kind of new things that are happening. So, we've been seeing a lot of shelters trying to grow their teams, trying to kind of do more things to help their community and the animals in their care. And so teams are growing. We're seeing some staff within organizations moving into new positions, some that are more specialized than they used to be. And of course, like everybody, especially during and post-pandemic, we are seeing staff turnover. So what that means is that we have a lot of people coming in or moving around in the industry who kind of have a need for a little bit more information about how things work and what we do. And at the same time that that's all happening, we see that shelters are very busy, as always, And we're seeing some really rapid changes in the industry. We're doing things much differently than we used to. And a lot of shelters, they always have, but especially with all these changes, they're seeing, difficulties in providing consistent training to their people. So we're also seeing that we have increased need and a want for diversity, equity, and inclusivity improvements in our shelters and in our communities. And what we notice is that, especially for frontline staff, there can be some disparities in professional development opportunities for them. RVTs have set CE, continuing education programs, so do DVMs. And through CAWA, we have a lot. And so there's different people who have easy access to those pathways. And then we don't really have that as much for our frontline staff. And they are invaluable. Like, we cannot do it without them. We also are seeing just a little bit of a need for them to have some additional career advancement pathways. So, if they want to move forward in the industry, we want them to be able to have that opportunity. And I think training is a big component of that. So what we are, and how can we forget? Of course, I think we're all so aware of our access to care issues. Like, this is a thing that's just seemed to have gotten worse and worse over the past few years. We're having access to medical care issues and behavioral care issues, both in shelters and out in our regular communities. So those things are all really pretty important and pretty pressing right now. And our program at the Shelter Medicine Program, we're really trying to focus in on access to care because we feel like we have an opportunity to really make a difference in this area. We have some direct access to different individuals. We have direct access to vets and to RVTs, and not just the ones who are currently in shelters, but people who are in a different area like private practice, students in these areas, people who have recently retired that maybe we could help improve their chances of getting involved in shelters and shelter medicine. And then we also have this third group of people, which is our shelter team members, who are part of the access to care solution. If we can kind of help them out with getting more information on the different needs in the shelter and more training on how to fill some of those needs. So that's where we went with this program. I have worked in shelters for more than 20 years, and I know how amazing it is to have really well-trained shelter team members who have clarity about what needs to be done and how to do it. And like I said, it's an area that I feel like we don't often kind of give them the appreciation that they deserve, and they don't have as many options for the training part. So I really wanted to first focus in on those people who are in the frontline roles. And this also, my kind of feeling about this was really supported by some recent vet recruitment and retention findings. There are a couple of studies that were done, and I think we're going to pop in the chat how you can access those. But we did one in California, and there was also a more national one that was done. And I think the one that says California, there's two different ones, but make sure we get both of them. But what they found when they started to ask vets, like, why aren't you applying for a shelter job, or why aren't you staying in your shelter job? And one of the really big reasons that they cited was lack of support staff, lack of ability to provide appropriate care, and lack of staff training and support for medical care. So in addition to wanting to elevate our frontline workers, they also can help us with this access to care challenge if we can get them so that they can help out with the medical part of things, which is a nice and big part of our shelter care of animals these days. So what we have created is this brand new shelter care specialist certification program. And we are looking at it as kind of a game-changing, without overstating, but we think it could be a game-changing professional development program for folks working in shelters. And we are wanting to elevate the professional skills and credentials of our folks who are working in the shelters, who aren't in like a licensed role, not a vet or an RVT necessarily, but somebody who is in there taking care of the animals. And we want to help them position themselves for like a long-term and fulfilling career in our industry so that we can hang on to them. Because again, like, they are invaluable. We cannot do it without them. And so the program just kind of provides this foundation in some critical areas, including like best practices in animal care and shelter operations, so that they have kind of that grounding knowledge of how shelters operate in general. And it leads to this certification as a shelter care specialist. So we're super excited. Some of the goals of this program in particular are that we want to provide information for the people who go through the program. We want to really encourage discussion within the program so that we can empower our frontline workers, provide them with that needed professional development, promote them for career advancement, and really improve their sustainability and retention within our industry. So some of the features we're trying to really contemplate, because I worked in shelters a lot and I see what the daily work is like for people who are in the shelter all day. And so we really want to make sure that our program is as friendly and accessible for people in that situation so that it's doable, so they can do this while they still have a full-time job. So we're providing step-by-step training where we focus on the current best practices. We're using adult learning principles to make sure that we're delivering information in a way that's going to be helpful. We really worked hard to make sure that the program is modern and mobile friendly. And we're using like micro content. We talk about that where it's like not reading pages and pages and pages of stuff, but like micro content that can be quickly, easily, and successfully reviewed and understood. I kind of think, and this is me too, like I am struggling now to read long paragraphs and page after page. And so it's kind of like this TikTok nation, and people are used to kind of short, pithy, where we get like the most important thing as quickly as possible. And that's what we're trying to do here. And we are also trying to make sure that we are really respectful of busy shelter team members and their schedules. And we're trying to not just like give knowledge out, but also give these robust opportunities for coach feedback, and also for everybody to kind of learn from each other, learn from the coach, the co-coach, learn from the fellow students, give feedback, open discussions, because we're not all in exactly the same place. And it's always great to learn from somebody else who's doing it the same or a little different to kind of see what's possible out there. And so overall, the benefits, kind of obvious at this point, but the professional development, we think that this is really a key factor. Opening up career pathways, we think, is something that's super important. Getting those current best practices out to the people who are doing the work on the front lines, and also as a solution to the access to care issues that we've discussed. So just a little bit about the program, so you have a feel for what it actually is without me just talking like in general terms. But basically the program consists of 6 courses in the program. There's 2 courses that are like required. They're the first 2 that we ask people to take. And then beyond that, we have a set of electives. So we have 2 electives that are focused more on the welfare side of things, including population management and behavior training and enrichment. And then we have 2 electives that are more on the medical side of things, which goes to advanced medical care and clinic skills and operations. And then we also have 2 other versions of the program where people can either do an advanced certification or even a master's certification. So we have these 4 options for people who are interested in their program. We've got what we call our welfare focus, and that's those 2 required courses. Those are modern sheltering foundations and animal care foundations. And then they would do the 2 welfare focused electives. If somebody's more kind of gearing up towards more of a medical focus, they would take those same 2 required courses, and they would take to the 2 medical focused electives. And for somebody who's kind of interested in all of it and wants like this really broad knowledge, we offer an advanced option where they take the 2 electives and they can take the 2 required and all 4 of the electives. And then we're even offering like this master's version of the certification where they would do the advanced path with all 6 courses, and they would also do a master's project and have a co-coach role in the course. So just for a feel of like what the courses are going to cover, in the 2 required courses, we've got the modern sheltering foundations, where we kind of just talk about the program. We talk about capacity for care. We talk about the 4 rights of animal shelters. We go into a little bit overview of the fear-free concept. And then we start to talk about some critical info on like intakes and holding periods and who can do what in the shelter setting. And we give an intro to the next course. And in the next course, the Animal Care Foundations, we go deeper into how fear-free shows up in daily animal care. We talk more about best practices in daily animal care and husbandry, more about specific procedures that people are going to do in their role, like intake care, basic assessment, basic diagnostics, some safety and infectious disease information, talk about protocols and job aids, and also using shelter software efficiently. And then in our 2 courses that are the elective ones on that medical track, we're going to be talking about more focused and advanced medical care in the first course, where we talk about full exams, common issues to look for, using more advanced diagnostics in the shelter setting, also kind of triage and providing emergency care to animals in the shelter. Talk a little bit about telemedicine, because that's a new area a lot of us are really leveraging. More about like the medical requirements, medical legal requirements in shelters, and then interacting with the public about medical things. In our clinic skills and operations, we really go into clinical stuff. Like if you're going to help out in the clinic, or you ever might want to, setting up the clinic, using the clinic space as well, scheduling things, all the surgery stuff, like helping prep for surgery, assisting and recovery of animals, even like working with surgery packs, anesthesia monitoring. And we're going to talk also about like public vaccination and wellness clinics, more telemedicine options, and more interacting with the public about medical things. Over on the welfare side, we're going to go deeper into things that relate to population management, including like what it is, how it all works, how to do like daily population medicine rounds. And we're also going to talk about like the importance of pathway planning to really minimize length of stay. Talk about like looking for barriers to getting animals through your system or to an appropriate outcome. And just really that whole idea of keeping animals moving through the shelter so that they aren't staying any longer than needed. And then of course in our behavior training enrichment, one of my favorites, talk about like the 5 freedoms and domains. We're going to talk about how capacity for care and the 4 rights intersect with behavior training and enrichment in shelters. Talking about humane handling, team training in these concepts, housing and the physical environment for the animals. We're also going to talk like the emotional environment for animals in our shelters and how that impacts how they behave and what their outcome options are. We'll talk about training and behavior modification, daily monitoring of behavioral concerns, as well as how that intersects with pathway planning. And we're going to talk about some of the difficult stuff too, like decision making. How do you decide who goes where? And also follow up, like once an animal leaves your shelter, following up on what happens to them so that you have an idea of how things are really going once they leave your doors. And of course, more shelter software stuff. I'm sprinkling the shelter software in everywhere because often if we don't record it or keep track of it, it's really hard to keep this stuff going and have our best results. So just to give you guys a little idea of like, it is a 6-week program. So I have like a little sample schedule of what the first course looks like. So we kind of just get everybody into the program and get them used to our technology and how to do their homework. Then we talk to them a little bit about the history of shelters and how the industry has changed. Kind of interesting. I didn't think it'd be as interesting as it is, but it's kind of cool to like look how far we've come. Then we talk a lot about the 4 rights of animal sheltering. And we also talk about capacity for care. And we go on to talk about the Fear-Free Shelters program and encouraging people to really dive into that, because we do lean on those concepts a lot because they're so important, and the shelter legal basics. And then we wrap that 6-week course up with an overview of the upcoming courses that help people decide the path they want to take. And as far as like time commitment, we're trying to aim for a kind of a sweet spot, about an hour of content each week, and then some additional time for the learners to, do their assignments, do their knowledge checks. And right now we're having 3 live meetings during each 6-week program, and they're recorded so people can attend live. They can watch the recording. And so we're looking at like about 2 hours a week total that the learners should expect to put into the program during the 6-week course. And we're kind of recommending to students, give yourselves about 30 minutes of each of your work days and maybe break it up into 2 15-minute blocks, which kind of works with our micro content format. And as far as like expectations of learners, we really do want them to engage, because they're not going to get anything out of it if they don't kind of like dive in. So we want them to, log into our little platform and keep up with the content as we drip it out. We drip out content once a week. So it's not everything, it's just 1 week at a time. We want them to really, engage and do the assignments and the self-assessments and participate in the discussions that happen. We want them to either attend or watch the recordings of our meetings. And we want to make sure that they, feel comfortable reaching out to those of us helping coach the program and to their fellow learners, so that if they need any help or have any questions or concerns, that we're there for them. And then on the other side, we are also asking the shelter leaders whose team members might engage in this program to, make sure, this program is for them, but it's also for you and your shelter to benefit. And so, make sure to give the students time to engage with the learning and review the content and do the assignments. Want to make sure that they have a space to do their work. We have made it mobile friendly, and so it can be done on a tablet or phone, but it's a bit richer experience and easier on a computer, and not all frontline staff members have their own computer terminal. So we're asking leaders to make something available so that they could do that. We're also asking our leaders to help with any barriers to access to items they need to complete their assignment, so that if they need something or access to a platform, they can get that. And then we're also really hoping that our leaders of the people in the program just be really open to communications, so that the people in the program can share what they're learning. And, if they have ideas about implementing things that would be beneficial, like let's give them a platform for that, so that we can, get these ideas in place if there's a shelter that some of this stuff isn't in place yet. I will get to Q&A in just a sec, because I see some stuff in the chat, so I'm not ignoring it all. So as far as the who, when, and how, this is mostly aimed at frontline staff right now. And so we're talking about any kind of frontline staff, whether that means that you are ACA or an ACT, so animal care attendants and techs, whether you're more focused on behavior training, whether you're more, sorry, you guys, it keeps flipping forward, it's being so silly, whether you're more focused on behavior training, or whether you're more focused on adoption counseling. We just want to make sure that it is, it's going to be most valuable for those folks. And it's also going to be valuable for people who've been in the industry for a while or brand new to the industry. Our first course is going to be of the next group is going to be starting October 21st. We're just now finishing up our pilot group, and they are on week 5. And then we have the next group starts October 21st. And so if anybody is interested in hearing more or in signing up, go ahead and visit our website at www.shelterlearniverse.com. And there's like a sign up for updates button right there that you can click and get the updates about the program. And when we're going to be enrolling people, you'll get the opportunity to enroll, because it is like cohort based, which means it's like a group of people moving through it together. We do have to like cap the amount of people in the program each session, because we're trying to give a lot of feedback and a lot of interactions and discussions with our learners. And so that's why we're also offering it about every 2 months, so that we can enroll new students and give them that experience. At some point in the future, we'll probably release a lot of this content as what we call like standalone or on-demand content. But right now, the really rich experience is really being part of a cohort of people going through the program together and getting that direct feedback. So that's kind of where we're starting out, and then we'll branch off as we can. And so definitely, if you're interested, go visit our website. And, just to sum up, kind of like, we're super happy to be offering this program. We really want to be able to support the program participants who do it. We want the learners to enjoy it and really benefit. And we really want them to like succeed in their current and future jobs and have everything they need to stay in the industry, or, move through the industry into different roles. And so, like I mentioned, if you want to learn more, go ahead and visit our website. And then I think what I'm going to do is stop the share and look at the chat. unless anybody else has a different idea. So I see, are you guys okay if I answer some questions from the chat?
Yeah, well, I was just going to help go through them with you if that works.
Oh, that's even better. I'll take a breath and drink some coffee.
Perfect. So thank you so much for sharing that. We've got some excitement in the chat, appreciating this opportunity and looking at, and then some technical clarification. So is this open to anyone, or can this be an organization that's forming or an individual group? Where are we set on that? Who is it open to?
Yeah, so right now, the main focus of the content is really a lot of it is about like public sheltering with like taking in stray animals, because there are some really specific things that we see with that this program does really pull into the forefront. So I think right now in its current iteration, it's going to be most valuable to people working in either a public shelter or working in what we call a hybrid shelter. So like a private shelter that also has government contracts for services, so that they do have that stray component. We are going to have other programs in the future, but this one, I feel like that's kind of the most beneficial learner is a person who has that kind of a setting.
Great. So thanks for that clarification. It's good, I think, for a lot of people to say, wow, this is great that's going on, but I'm really interested too. So happy to hear that you've got a target audience now, and that probably helps keep your cohort in the right level of people. But maybe for our listeners or attendees who are in different styles of groups, but have that same interest in the same frontline kind of concerns, that look for that when you're talking about those future iterations or those on-demand versions.
Yeah, and let me just point out, because I didn't even go into this, but we do have a full suite of learnings already on Maddie's University. So we already have on-demand courses all about the 4 rights of animal sheltering, which is really important information. We have some other products in there that they call them products, like removing barriers to adoptions. We have a whole legal series in there that relates to shelters and intake requirements and holding periods and community cats and who can do what. So definitely head all over to the Maddie's University. And I think all of our content starts with MMPC. And also, if you go to our shelterlearniverse.com main site, we have link throughs to all of our Maddie's University on-demand content too. So check that out, because I feel like there's some good stuff in there personally.
Perfect. It looks like Allison's dropped the link for Maddie's University in the chat. So if you're looking for those things, clarifications that the next cohort is going to kick off on October 21st. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Accepting applications. When does that open?
We're going to be accepting applications almost immediately. I'm asking people right now to just sign up on our updates form. And then we're going to have an email going out to that list of people with the link to express interest in the October 21st cohort start.
Perfect. So your interest form, I hope maybe Allison can drop the link in or let us know what that is. I know
shelterlearniverse.com main website. Sorry, guys.
Okay, perfect. I did have a question just to clarify that we had said for these, shelters or shelter government contracts. So there's some questions in the chat asking, what about foster base that do deal with strays? Is that something that you think targeted this cohort or maybe in the future?
This cohort is really not going to be that beneficial for that exact group, because this is really more about daily care in the shelter, like feeding and cleaning and infectious disease and that kind of stuff. And, who comes in and when they come in and how they come in. And so it's not really super foster focused. And so I would really think there's probably better uses of your time that really zeroes in on what you need to know.
Thanks for that clarification. I think you're right. Like foster maybe needs their own types of material that is really centered around what they're fighting and what they're dealing with and the challenges that are unique to them. So thank you for that separation. And when we look at this group of people, like some of the people are new, right? They're new to the world, they're new to sheltering, or maybe they're new to a particular organization. But what about the people who have been in this role for maybe years, decades, and for some people, is this material going to be relevant for both levels of, of skill set that they've already been in?
Yeah, I mean, it really is, just because the industry has changed so much, and so much has changed in what we feel is like current best practice versus what we thought 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And so I feel like often it is more difficult for our frontline staff to attend the conferences and go to all the webinars and do all of the work to kind of stay current because they are so busy actually providing care to the animals. So this is kind of meant to be a distillation of the information that they need to make sure that they're staying current and they have what they need in their shelter to do their job the best they can within whatever resource constraints they have. So in our current cohort, we have a lot of people who've been there in a shelter for 3 to 6 months. We have a few who've been there in the 1 to 2 year range, all the way up to people who've been in the shelter industry for 10 to 15 years. And they're still, learning things. We do these kinds of courses also for shelter leaders. And many of them have been in the industry for decades, and still keeping current is a challenge, or making sure that what you've been doing forever is like what's currently the best and easiest way to do it to be efficient. So I do feel like there's benefits. There's huge benefits to the newbies, but there's also really a good overview for people who've been there a little bit longer, and also resources for them to be able to train incoming staff with what they've learned.
Great. I'm happy to hear that. I know sometimes the learning modules for people who are really experienced in that, they feel like I want to just skip through things. This not really apply to me. I know this art, I know these pieces. So that's always a concern when you want to have your team training is, do we have team buy-in at all levels with that? So it sounds like you guys are really working to make sure it is relevant to anyone in those things, and targeting towards the actual employees of the shelter at this point. So that's wonderful to hear. Do you guys have any, not sure how to ask, any ways that people who are interested, maybe those people in leadership, that they can preview this, or that they can take like a mini module so that they can kind of try it out and see if they want to bring it into their team?
We haven't developed something like that yet. We did in our first cohort have a couple of leaders who kind of wanted to log in and just check it out. But we don't yet have like a preview for them, other than kind of telling you about the content in today's meeting. And then also on the website, there's a lot more information about like what we're covering and what way, and what our goals are as far as like helping staff be efficient, but still really maximizing welfare of the animals. So there is a lot of information just on the website. We have actually a general info page about the program, and then we have 2 separate pages. One that's directed completely to the learner of what they can expect and benefit from, and one that's directed directly to the leaders so they can understand how the program would help their team.
Great. I think that's a hard question to navigate, because people are here from all sides of it. Some people are the front line, some people are at home, some people are the leaders. One thing, if I can nail down with you, is let's talk money. What does it cost, and what is the end thing?
You guys, I'm so sorry. It's free. It's free thanks to Maddie. I always assume, but yeah, it's free. And so that's why we're also super excited, because we didn't want any barriers to anybody who wanted to do this. We wanted it to be easy and free and valuable. So yes, it is a free program. And so, yeah, that should not be a barrier to anybody who was at all worried about that.
Thank you so much, because I know that that's always a question, and we can't thank Maddie's enough for being able to reduce that barrier completely. So thank you to Maddie's. Cost-wise, we got that established. And what do we end up at the end? Do they get a continuing education credits? Do we get a certification of completing the program? What does that look like for someone who does go through the program?
Yeah, so they will actually get a certification, like they'll actually get a physical certificate, but also that shelter care specialist designation can be added to their name. And there's a few different versions of it, depending on what their focus was, or if they did the advanced or the master's version of the certification. But they can actually like add that to their signature line. They can post it on their LinkedIn if that's a thing they do. And we'll also gonna have like little badges that you can put. So it's something that we want people to be proud of and share, so that people know that they have gone through this rigorous training, and also get it on their resume to show, hey, I have done this thing and I know my stuff. And I think that's really helpful and valuable for people to stay in our industry, and if they want to, move into a new position over time. Also for CE units, right now it is NACA and CAWA approved for 10 units per course. And if anybody else is a member of something that requires CE, let us know. Right now, we're not getting race CE for it, because that's just vets and RBTs that tend to use that. The The one focuses on behavior. We can also seek out IABCC if anybody else is interested in more of a behavior focus. But right now it's called one NACA.
I think that's great, especially for this industry that does meet for them. I will tell you, and many of the people listening, that if you are a member of a different organization that does require CE, there's usually alternate pathways. So when you're creating a program like Dr. Delaney is, that program applies to get CE pre-approved. But there are post-approval ways. So if you have a particular group, if you're an LVT and you want to check with your state if that counts as your CE, you can often send information in to pre-approve or even post-approve after you've taken the course for those CE units. So anyone who's attending and worried about that, can they apply it? Almost always those organizations are going to look at that and be able to give you guidance on whether or not CE is approved in that unique situation. Most of which usually do approve, especially if you've got a really established program like this sounds like. So thank you for sharing that and getting that part going. If you could tell me, what do you think the number is going to be like for this next cohort? How many people do you think you're going to be able to bring on board?
Yeah, right now we are looking at a cohort size of 50 learners. That's what we've done in the pilot so far. And that's what we're going to kind of maintain for a while. You know, with online learning, we do see some people who just end up not being able to engage. So we may up that a little bit, knowing that some people might not, you know, they might want to, but then they might not actually end up doing the course. And so we might be able to up that a little bit in future sessions. But right now, 50.
Okay, 50. And then time, what is your window? You're saying time, we're going to complete it in.
Each course is a 6-week course. And then I did add in this session, I put in the dates for the upcoming ones, but that's also going to be on our website so that people can see which courses are offered when. And basically, if you wanted to do, like, let's say you were doing the medical focus, which is the 2 required and 2 electives, you would be done with that program in the spring. And then if you wanted to do more electives, you could either take 2 at a time, or you could wait till the electives are offered again, and then that would make it a little bit longer program for you to take all of the courses.
Sounds like there's a lot of ability to kind of tailor to your particular interests and needs. That gives a lot of flexibility, I think, based on their experience and what unique challenges they have in the group that they work with. So Dr. Delaney, when you were creating this and facilitating this and getting this all organized, what would be your favorite part that you are excited to make and deliver?
I mean, I love all this stuff. Like, I love trying to determine what's going to be most important for people and how to get them the information that's going to be most valuable to them, but also really give them an opportunity to, like, consider and reflect on how this is showing up in their own life and their daily work, and what might change that might make things even better than they already are. And so just kind of, deciding which content is going to be maybe most valuable, and then also how to get the learners to really think about it in their own actual personal life and in their shelter. And so that part is super fun. I also, I love basically all these topics. I love shelter medicine. I love shelter software. I love efficiency. I love population management, behavior training, enrichment. So, I mean, for me, these are all really exciting topics. And luckily, they just happen to be the ones that I hear shelter staff not always getting the training they want. How to use shelter software, how to use protocols and job aids, and, how to do exams on animals and record the findings, and then follow standing orders or communicate with the medical team, and help out in various departments. And so for me, all of this is just really fun and exciting. And it's just based on being in shelters for so long now that these things to me seem like the ones that would be most helpful.
Sounds like you have a passion project. I think that's the most exciting piece of being able to work with so many wonderful people in animal welfare. I've been able to be a collaborator on also some training, and it's been so much fun to be able to share that knowledge in that way, and to know, especially in this situation, that the cost isn't a barrier. You don't have to worry about, can I afford the tuition or all of these things. So it's been amazing to be a part of that as well. And I would love if you feel like sharing, as a veterinarian who's done a program like this, I learned things. Like I think it's very easy for veterinarians, especially, or some of our leaders, to be considered experts. And I think what I'd really love people to understand is that we're learning. We're all learning. What can you think of that you've learned in this process?
Well, you know, one of the things that like one of the like little sayings in vet med is like, you know, see one, do one, teach one. And it's the teaching that, you know, solidifies the knowledge or helps you to even expand your thinking. I think the thing that I learn anytime I do one of these programs is like I learn from the students. You know, I want it to be a two-way communication stream. And it's one of the things I'm loving about this course and the way we set it up on our platform is that, you know, I'll give them a survey or ask them a discussion question. And then like I'll actually read their answers. Like I spend a couple hours every day reading what they've submitted or said. And I'll come back and ask them a question. I'm like, oh, that's so interesting. Can you tell me more about that? Or can you tell me, you know, why you guys do that way? What's the benefit for you? And so I actually just learn every day from them. And that's fascinating to me. Like never stop learning, right? That's my whole motto in life. And so I learn something from every student I interact with. And for me, that's fun and exciting. And that leads me in new directions and new things to help people with by what I've learned from the actual learners. And so for me, that's the best part about it, because I want to keep learning and I want to spread information that's good and things that are working to as many people as I can. And so like, if you're doing something amazing, like, let me know and I'm going to incorporate it into the next thing that I put out there and say, hey, I heard about this great thing someone's doing. And that's how I think we all get better, is by, you know, teaching people things that we have learned or that have worked for us.
Great. I have one more question before I hand it over to Christina. It's really important, I think, this learning back and forth, that we have wisdom at every level, and even people who are attending this have wisdom, and so sharing that wisdom. One of the things that I hope to see in this training, and maybe you could address really quickly, is how are you weaving in the challenges that animal welfare as a whole is facing, especially around our diversity or lack thereof, and how that's going to come in discussing the equity between employees and organizations and with the people who are surrendering. How is that being integrated into this course?
Yeah, I mean, this course is pretty practical. And so there will be content that we link to that goes much deeper into that, because we have done a lot that we've put into our on-demand modules that focus on that. We did our Back Where They Belong conference last spring, where we really went deep into our communities and making sure that we are not, you know, causing any harm for our communities or making assumptions or preventing people from getting their animals back or adopting. And so those concepts we will likely spring people off, but we will weave them into what we're talking about, because we want to like get them moving through the practical stuff as much as possible, but also give them access to all of those concepts that we have gone very deep into, because it's so important. It's so important that our shelters reflect our communities and respect our communities, and that we make it easy for people to engage with us so that we can do our best work and not be separate from the communities we live in.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I know that we have a lot more work to do in that world. So working on practical knowledge and maybe reflecting for all of the people that are participating in that. I hear that Christina has a question.
Yes. Well, before I ask mine, someone asked in the chat if the ASV guidelines are referenced in the courses.
Yes, we do have ASV guidelines. They're kind of built in a little bit. So like what's in the guidelines is kind of what we're talking about. You know, we have an entire part of the course on capacity for care, which harkens right back to that. We have all of like the housing and the enrichment. And so it's all kind of a flow back and forth. And we do provide information on actually directly linking to the most recent version of the ASV guidelines, so people have access to that. But we more try and like weave it in rather than tell them, hey, go read this relatively long document. Instead, we kind of in practical applications where it shows up and how you're doing that stuff.
Got
Can
it.
I jump in? This is Stephanie, and a UC Davis alumni. Woohoo! Go Aggies! But I just have a kind of a tangential comment to make, and that is one of the problems the rescue I work with works in Central Valley of California and doesn't have enough vets. And people don't go to the vet, so we need to bring mobile clinics in. And I would hope that you would be able to bring the voice of this rescue to vet training to say, can you bring in your vet residents, the ones that are learning, to a mobile unit along with a vet to help cover those costs or cover the surgeries, because we can't get vets to come out. We have mobile units, but we don't have vets to come do it. So I just would like to put that in your ear and hope that you would advocate with the vet clinics there and the school. So thank you. That's my.
Yeah, so UC Davis did just very recently create an entire access to care program within the vet school. And so they have someone who's beginning in the position of leading that program. And then our own program outside of online learning is also hiring a position to address and focus on access to care issues, including exactly what you've spoken of. So definitely that is an area that we are really putting a lot of time and effort into, in addition to the funding that we provided through the California for All Animals program that really focused a lot on spay-neuter access. So definitely, kind of aside for this little program we're talking about, there is a lot of movement on that front that's very exciting.
Thank you for letting me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. I'm really excited about all the conversations, some really great questions. We don't have time to keep going, but what we do have is the Maddie's Forum. So if you've had questions that are unanswered, or if you're listening to this recording later, please pop on. I know Dr. Delaney is going to be hanging out in there, checking on things this week to see if you've got questions and to be able to give suggestions, I think, as well, or curiosities. So she has a laundry list of things to work on in the future. Thank you so much, Dr. Delaney, for joining us today. It has been a pleasure, and Christine and I thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day, everybody.